Q2 and good evening, everyone. Welcome back to MSBS Weekly Guided Meditation by Prago. Today is the 9th of May 2023. We'd like to extend a great welcome to all new viewers to this online channel. We are very grateful to have with us Bhante Adibalo. Bhante was ordained under the Theravada tradition of Thai Dhamma sect at Santi Forest Monastery, Johor in 2008. Bhante is currently the religious advisor to Buddhist Youth Network Singapore. Bhante will be leading the homage to the Buddha and taking a 5 precepts for Buddhists. Now let us compose our mind, put our palms together and welcome Bhante. Over to you, Bhante.
Okay, thank you, Terence, for the intro. So we start off with 3 bows to the Buddha. First bow, second bow, and the third bow. Okay, and we start off with the homage chant. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. 3 refuges. Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Saṅghāṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dutiyampi Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dutiyampi Dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Dutiyampi Saṅghāṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Buddhaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Dhammaṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi, Tatiyampi Saṅghāṃ saraṇaṃ gacchāmi. And the 5 precepts. Pāṇātipada viramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Adinādāna viramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Kāmesu micchācāra viramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Musāvādā viramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Surameraya majjapamadatthāna viramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, so good evening to everyone. Tonight we are still continuing this topic on the Susima Sutta. Yeah, so Susima Sutta is about dependent origination. And just a quick, brief recap on what we've covered so far. It's about this spy called Susima, actually from another religious belief. He wanted to know what's the secret of how come this Buddhism is flourishing. How come the numbers keep growing, the Buddha keep receiving gifts, and he wanted to ordain. He went to ordain, become a monk, and the Buddha approved. The Buddha approved of his ordination. So amidst of this, after he got ordained, there's a group of monks, so new monks who declared enlightenment. Yeah, these monks declared enlightenment, and Susima was very happy. Went to interview them and asked them, what kind of enlightenment is it? Can you fly? Can you recollect past lives? Do you have divine ear, divine eye, mind reading abilities, all these higher knowledges? And they said no. Yeah, so at the bottom it said no friend, and they cannot have all this. They don't have all this, even though they're enlightened. Yeah, even so we look at the one with the past lives. The next, yeah, okay. So we are just going to re-emphasize again. Okay, I don't want to read the entire thing. Maybe midway, midway through the paragraph. Okay, so we look at such was my food. Now look at the center towards the right. Such was my food, such my experience of pleasure and pain, such the end of my life. Previous. Yeah. Passing away from that state, I re-arose there. There too, I had such a name, belonged to such a clan. So they are, the person who recollect past life, they are supposed to know how they pass away and how they reappear. Yeah? How they reappear in another life. So that's the quality of recollection of past life. Okay, next. Okay, so the divine eye, seeing other beings, unseen beings, how they get reborn and stuff like that. They also don't have this divine eye. Next. Okay, so the other questions. Do you have formless jhanas? No. So they ask, no. So the Susima is asking, so what kind of attainment? Yeah, and these monks mentioned they are released through discernment. We call this Panya Vimutti, released through discernment. So according to this Panya Vimutti Sutta, yeah, the release of discernment, it is mentioned that any of the jhanas, first jhana all the way to eighth jhana, if a person were to discern, were to practice insight, they can also reach this liberation. Huh? So that is the path through discernment. Okay, and Susima doesn't understand, so he went to see the Buddha. So he went to look for the Buddha, sort of explained to him, reported to him the situation. How come your monks claim they're enlightened but don't have all these abilities? No, what's so special about your Dhamma? All right, next. So the Buddha taught him the five aggregates. Five aggregates. Five aggregates, see as impermanent, suffering, and non-self. So he's able to understand. Next. Next. Okay, next. Okay, next. Okay, so once actually we covered until this the 12 links in the previous lesson. So basically just a quick recap. This Susima is able to see the arising of all the 12 links. So the Buddha was asking a question, Susima, do you see that birth as a requisite condition, there's aging and death? So you can actually answer also. Do you know that no, what is the precondition to aging and death, before aging and death? What is that? Birth, right? There must be birth first before aging and death. Right, so of course everybody say yes, so it's very obvious. Do you see that from becoming as a requisite condition there's birth? Becoming means the emotion or the sense of existence, the sense of I, the sense of self. Yeah, because there's I, there's becoming, then there is birth. Yeah, because of you feel there's an I, then the I wants to take birth. So Susima answered yes. Do you see clinging, requisite becoming? Yeah, because of clinging, that's why there's the sense of self. Then he said yes. Then do you see that craving causes this clinging, craving conditions clinging? And he said yes. And do you see feeling conditions craving? And he said yes. And the rest, the up on the chain of dependent origination. Contact, condition, feeling is a yes. Sixth sense media, condition, contact, yes. Name and form, condition, sixth sense media, yes. The consciousness, condition, name and form, yes. Fabrication, condition, consciousness, yes. And eventually, ignorance, condition, fabrication, and he said yes. So he's able to see the arising of the 12, and now we are going to look at the reverse order. Earlier on, we call it a forward order. That means what conditions the other to arise. So the reverse order is what conditions, when it ceases, it causes the other condition to cease. So the Buddha asked Susima, do you see that cessation of birth, the cessation of aging and death? He said yes. And from cessation of becoming, the cessation of birth, he said yes. So I don't need to repeat, it's more or less the same thing. So everything, yes, yes, yes. Okay, next. All right, so all the way down to the last one. Do you see that from the cessation of ignorance, there's a cessation of fabrication? And Susima said yes. So if a person sees ignorance, it means they are an arahant, enlightened being. So this Susima from spy from another religion became a monk, and still being a spy, and he received a teaching from the Buddha, and he got enlightened. He got enlightened. So let's see what the Buddha has to say. Okay, next. So now the Buddha start to question Susima regarding the issue that he reported. Earlier on, Susima was like sort of complaining, how come your monks don't have all these psychic powers? And now the Buddha start to ask him back, because Susima is enlightened already, so the Buddha do the same thing. Then having known thus, having seen thus, Susima, do you wield manifold supernormal powers? Having been one, you become many. Having been many, you become one. You're able to split the body. You appear, you vanish, disappear, teleport, go unimpeded through walls, face through solid objects, ramparts, mountains, as if through space. You dive in and out of earth as if it were water. You walk on water without sinking as if it were dry land. Sitting cross-legged, you fly through the air like a winged bird. With your hand, you touch and stroke even the sun and moon. So mighty and powerful, you exercise influence with your body, even as far as the Brahma worlds. So he said, no. Susima don't have this ability. So sometimes some traditions, or even within the Theravada tradition, there's some belief that if you are enlightened, you must have all these abilities. An enlightened being must have all this psychic power, mind reading, all those kind of stuff. But if you look at this sutta, this Susima said no, or the Arahants before that also said no. Okay, next. Okay, how about the divine ear? Then having known thus, having seen thus, Susima, do you hear by means of the divine ear element, purified and surpassing the human, both kinds of sounds, divine and human, near or far? They said, no, no, Lord. Next slide. Then the next one is the mind reading ability. So the formula is very similar to the Satipatthana Sutta, the mindfulness of states of mind, knowing all the states of mind, whether there's delusion, non-delusion, all the emotions, greed, hatred, the levels of concentration, whether it's liberated or not. So this is mindfulness of external mind states, and he said no. Next. And this one, recollecting of past lives. So earlier on we talked about the dependent origination, or rather most of the mainstream institutions talk about dependent origination as 3 lifetimes. But here you have an arahant or arahants able to see the 12 links, able to see that this consciousness, condition, name and form, and all the other rest, but they are unable to see the appearing. So if you look at the last sentence, passing away from that state, I rearose here. Yeah, and he said, no, Lord. So he's unable to see in between the states how this sort of the mind or consciousness or whatever you want to call it, sort of jump from body to body. Okay, next. Okay, then the same thing on other beings, all the seen or unseen beings, what's their past lives. And he said no as well. Next. And this one is asking about formless concentration. Then having known thus, having seen thus, Susima, do you dwell touching with your body the peaceful emancipations, the formless states beyond form? And he said, no, Lord. So just now, Susima, didn't you make that declaration without having attained any of these dhammas? Yeah, so he declared understanding, this dependent origination, the 5 aggregates, yeah, having able to see them detached, and he, declared release, but he didn't attain any of these states. Yeah? Okay, next. So Susima was very repentant. Then throwing himself down with his head at the Blessed One's feet, Venerable Susima said to the Blessed One, a transgression has overcome me, Lord, in that I was so foolish, so muddle-headed, and so unskillful as to go forth as a thief of the Dhamma. In this well-taught Dhamma and discipline, may the Blessed One please accept this confession of my transgression as such, so that I may restrain myself in the future. Yeah, so the Susima seek forgiveness from the Buddha, and Buddha forgave him. Yes, Susima, transgression overcame you in that you were so foolish, so muddle-headed, so unskillful as to go forth as a thief of the Dhamma. Okay, next. Suppose, Susima, that so the Buddha gave analogy, that a robber and evildoer, having been caught, was shown to a king. This, your majesty, is a robber and evildoer. Decree what punishment you want for him. And so the king would say, go and, having bound him with a stout rope with his arms pinned tightly against his back, having shaved him bald, march him to a harsh-sounding drum from street to street, crossroads to crossroads, evict him to the different gates or the city, and cut off his head. Then the king's men, having bound him and all this, executed him. What do you think, Susima? Would that man for that reason experience pain and distress? Wouldn't that man for that reason experience pain and distress? And Susima said, yes, Lord. Okay, next. However, such pain and distress that a man will experience for that reason, Susima, the going forth of a thief of the Dhamma in this well-taught Dhamma discipline is still more painful in its result, more bitter, that leads to even the lower realms. So the Buddha is saying that the physical execution of a criminal is not as bad as being a thief of the Dhamma. So if a person purposely want to steal something from the Dhamma and with that bad intention, it's very sort of negative karma, negative karma. So I continue reading. But because you see your transgression as such and make amends in accordance with the Dhamma, we accept your confession. For Susima, it is cause of growth in the Dhamma and discipline of the noble ones. When seeing a transgression as such, one makes amends in accordance with the Dhamma and exercise restraint in the future. So the Buddha forgave Susima, but also because Susima is enlightened already, so he's supposedly overcome, free from these karmas. And what do you think? Do you think the Buddha is keeping secrets? Don't want to share the Dhamma to other people? So there is actually another sutta called the Desana Sutta, where the Buddha is, he mentions that it's not just he shares openly to his own disciples, yeah, the monks, nuns, laymen, laywomen, but any ascetic from other systems of belief, any practitioners, any devotees from other systems of belief, if they were to ask the Buddha will also share openly with them. Yeah? So because he believes that the Dhamma will benefit everyone. So that's the Buddha's stance. But so what the Buddha is tackling with Susima is the intention of stealing, yeah? The intention of stealing. So not much of not wanting to share. So the Buddha is actually very open. He wants to share. So I think that's why he also allowed Susima to ordain, become a monk. He's very open about this. Okay, next. Okay, so we go back to this the statement before this dependent origination. Next, previous. previous. Okay, yeah, this one. So, so this Susima made this declaration, yeah, at the last paragraph after seeing the 5 aggregates, able to let go of the 5 aggregates with full release. There is the knowledge fully released. He discerns that birth is ended, the holy life fulfilled, the task done. There is nothing further for this world. So that is the statement where the group of Arahants earlier, when Susima was interviewing them, made this declaration. And Susima himself, having understood these 5 aggregates and the dependent origination, also understood this statement. Yeah, so now we talk about the dependent origination. Next slide. Okay, we talk about the cessation. Huh? Okay, so next slide. Okay, so now we talk about cessation. So last week or the previous lesson, we talked about how to bring about this cessation. Yeah, so normally in the dependent origination model, a person have to look at this cessation of ignorance first. They normally start off with that, cessation of ignorance. Then you cease this mental fabrication, you cease consciousness, you cease name and form, and so on and so forth, all the way till ceasing this birth and death. But for this case, we talk about in practice, normally we talk about tackling craving, a cessation of craving. So how to do cessation of craving, we'll go to the next slide. So normally we talk about dependent on your organs, yeah, your 6 sense media, depending on your 6 sense media, let's say your eye, for example, depending on the external object you're seeing, then eye consciousness arises. That means you're able to see that image. And the meeting of these 3, which is your eye, the external object, eye consciousness, the meeting of these 3 is called contact. Yeah, and once there's contact, then there's feeling. There's feeling, whether you like it, you dislike it, you like what you see, you dislike what you see, and or neutral, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral feelings. And from there, there comes the self-inflicted suffering, which is craving. So an unskilled person will react to pleasant feelings with greed, and they'll react with unpleasant feelings with aversion, hatred. And if it's a neutral feeling, then it's they live in delusion. Life is normal. You don't need to pursue, to let go, and stuff like that. So these are the 3 kinds of feelings with 3 kinds of cravings. Okay, so if a person were to tackle with craving, and in practice we tackle craving with the opposite thought. So craving is greed, hatred, delusion. The opposite thought will be thoughts of non-greed, thoughts of non-hatred, thoughts of non-delusion. So in our routine, we start off with loving kindness. Whatever meditation object we are using, if we are visualizing the hairs, for example, the parts of your body, that is using your mind or consciousness. You're not seeing the eye. Or let's say if we are using our senses now, you can apply right thought with, let's say, loving kindness. Whatever you see, wish it well and happy. Whatever you hear, wish it well and happy. So that's we call this applying right thought every moment. And once the mind is calm, when the mind is settled, then it is conducive to reflect on impermanence. So impermanence is actually thoughts of non-greed and non-delusion. So impermanence is like two in one. So when we sort of think of impermanence, we sort of shake off that attachment, we shake off that delusion that everything is permanent, and we'll reduce this craving. And once this craving is reduced, and eventually over time it reduces until it's gone or ceased, then it will start to have this chain effect, chain reaction. This ego or clinging start to cease, ego starts to cease, and eventually ignorance start to cease. All right, so that's the end of the sharing. So this is the presentation of dependent origination based on logic and deduction, based on the statements of Susima and the Arahants, that this dependent origination is not about 3 lifetimes. Yeah, so the requirement for enlightenment is to understand dependent origination like every moment. Okay, any questions on the ground?
Bante, can I ask you,
Yep.
why is it Susima stole the Dharma? So is actually is it a karma that he has created?
The intention of wanting to steal, that is negative intention. So that was the part where the Buddha was pointing. Yeah.
But in the end, after he gained enlightenment, it is like is erased off, right? This mistake that he
Yeah.
has done.
Yeah.
But is it really wrong to steal the Dharma?
We talk about intention, yeah, because it creates a certain negative repercussion. It sort of creates a kind of selfishness. If a person were not to confess or overcome this issue, then they'll have this mentality of safekeeping. Whatever knowledge you have, you safekeep. You don't want others to steal. You don't want to share. So that is the problem. Yeah.
Thank you, Bante.
Okay. Anyone else?
Bante, is there a reason why we start with more like we tackle craving rather than clinging, or is it because anyway craving and clinging are quite closely related?
Yeah, in fact, once a person craves, then the rest of them is like more or less like a package. The rest of them down the chain is like a package. Yeah, so the Buddha is like over systematic. He lays down like one by one. Yeah, so you tackle craving, which is the cause of suffering, then naturally this clinging or this addiction will reduce.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, all right. Anyone else? All okay? Seitat, you have something?
Yeah, Bante, 2 questions. Just going through the sutta with you. Susima seems to answer yes to all the questions that Buddha asked. Does that indicate that he already has that knowledge, not a consequence of the teaching directly from Buddha?
So Susima has experiential knowledge based on probably the instruction of the understanding five aggregates. So by reflecting on the impermanent, the suffering, and the non-self nature of these five aggregates, is able to detach and sort of release. And so the Buddha is using dependent origination to sort of like gauge, his level of detachment. So Susima is able to understand the arising of all the 12 links and the cessation of all the 12 links. Yeah.
Right. So if it's based on that, is it fair to say that he was already enlightened even before?
Yeah, he's enlightened. That's why the Buddha have to ask him, and the counter ask him the question on the psychic powers and stuff like that. Yeah.
So, kind of the related question then, in an enlightened mind, there would still be ill will.
Will there still be ill will? I would say the enlightened mind won't have ill will. So this one again, I think very subjective to interpretation. Of course, all traditions will tell you enlightened mind, no more anger. No more anger. So it depends on how you understand this enlightened mind. So if we talk about, let's say the previous topic, we talk about the analysis of the statement. The Buddha mentioned there are two kinds of consciousness. If you could remember that that particular, this Venerable Mahakachana was analyzing the statement, and they mentioned about the normal five aggregates consciousness, and they talk about another kind of consciousness that doesn't arise and pass away, not shaken, not affected. So that mind won't be affected by ill will, yeah, that unshaken mind. But the five aggregates mind, I don't know, yeah. Because I'm just giving a case study of some examples, some case studies of how the sort of the Buddha answer questions, or yeah, give certain responses. Like for example, let's say there are monks, various group of monks in the horse trainer sutta, and the Buddha was having conversation with a horse trainer. Yeah, so the horse tamer was telling the Buddha how he trains his horse. The first grade, you just verbally give instructions, and the horse can follow. This in the best and the best grade. And the next grade will be you need to shout at the horse, then they'll follow your command. And the next grade will be you need to whip the horse. Yeah, then the horse will follow the command. And the last grade would be you whip, he doesn't follow, then the horse trainer said for this kind of horse they'll execute them, put them to sleep. So that's how the royal horse trainers handle these horses. So the horse trainer asked the Buddha, how do you train the monks? How do you train the monks? So the if I'm not wrong, there are four responses also, very similar to the horse training analogy. The first one is you give one teaching, and the disciple is able to practice on their own, reach enlightenment. So this is the best grade. Then the next grade down the line is if that disciple, you need to repeat a few times, then he understands, then he gets enlightened. The third kind is you need to be harsh. So that's the word, harsh. So the Buddha has harsh speech, but out of compassion. Harsh speech. Sometimes the Buddha used very extreme examples, like earlier on we talked about the execution of the criminal. A lot of these kind of examples, like Some other suttas talk about putting an iron ball inside the mouth, or cutting a person, or sawing the whatever, sawing the limbs, cutting off the tongue, things like you see in Haw Par Villa. These kind of examples. Then if scare tactic doesn't work, all kinds of harsh methods, verbal harsh methods doesn't work, then the last grade will be the Buddha mentioned metaphorically to kill the disciple. The horse trainer is like, oh, you kill your disciple. Yeah, how can you kill your monk, How can you kill? Then the Buddha's meant by killing is silent treatment, no talking. Don't even want to talk or greet or converse with that monk. Yeah, so that is the silent treatment. Yeah, so that's the 4 methods. And of course, there are other suttas. We talk about other suttas where the Buddha used words like fool and stuff like that. Mahatanha Sankhaya Sutta sort of admonish monks using certain terms. I cannot imagine him saying these words in a smiling face. I don't know how it can be done. So there are certain harsh manner they display externally, but the enlightened mind is free, free from aversion.
I was just thinking about in kind of our own life experience, and sometimes the knowledge and the knowing and the experience would be different. Knowing the certain facts may not truly you're able to execute it exactly. So sometimes I wonder whether or not the term of enlightenment used, whether or not it's the same level of our understanding of enlightenment, or it's just some understanding to say, I see it, kind of awareness.
Yeah, so that so-called consciousness or this awareness have different strength, different depth. So we talk about the stream enterer having a glimpse of enlightenment, a glimpse of this unshaken mind, a glimpse only. But they still can have greed and anger, because this greed and anger, how do you call it, the attention or the absorption to that peace of mind, this enlightened mind, is still very weak. So the greed and anger still can overpower the mind. Whereas if a person is fully enlightened, they are so absorbed in that emotion, that enlightened state, whatever greed or anger that arise, it like as though cannot touch this enlightened mind. Yeah? The mind is like focused or absorbed in this enlightened mind already. So this is my personal interpretation of it. Yeah. Okay. Next, anyone? Any questions?
I think if you talk about a person already enlightened, does it mean that he would not have any more defilements?
Yeah, the enlightened mind will not have any more defilements, or any of those unwholesome emotions cannot touch or affect that enlightened mind.
So does it mean that once he doesn't have any more street enlightened and he has no more defilements, he will have become an arahant?
Yeah, that's right.
So Susima did become an arahant in the end.
Yeah, that's why the Buddha have to counter, that means re-demonstrate the question he has asked the enlightened monks earlier, or the different psychic powers. So if he is not enlightened, then it will be not the right context, not the right situation to ask him back those questions. But because he is enlightened, then the Buddha can ask those questions and sort of let him see the context. Yeah.
So of course, before the person become enlightened, there are slowly all the defilements that he will let go, right?
Yeah, this is a matter of depth of this contentment. Yeah, so if a person's sensual desires is stronger than contentment, then yeah, we call these hindrances and fetters. Yeah.
So that means this part of it, once it overcomes, it will be enlightened.
Yeah, until the fetters won't affect the enlightened mind, won't affect the peace.
Thank you, Bante.
Okay, all right, no problem. Anyone else?
Bhante, I have a question. So
Mhm.
just now you mentioned about as part of having cultivating impermanence is to have thoughts of non-greed and non-delusion. Are there some examples of non-delusion thoughts that you can suggest that we can apply on a day-to-day basis?
Oh, okay. So delusion is like a package that comes with greed and hatred. So normally we just tackle greed and hatred, and delusion would be like uh, invisible partner, yeah, to greed and hatred. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it's like a byproduct, but an important byproduct.
Something like that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anyone else?
Bante, just wonder, in today's world context, right? Besides money and power, can you give any other examples of craving?
Anything that you want to possess, so that is craving. Can be anything. Things like entertainment, that also counts, yeah?
For example, if like these days, I mean, I wanted to read more about Buddhism.
Mhm.
So is that also a part of craving as well?
Okay. There's a different term for it. They call it chanda. Yeah? Chanda is a kind of desire, but it's a wholesome kind of desire. Anything that helps you in your spiritual growth, then that's a good kind of desire. The kind of craving we are supposed to overcome is the unwholesome one.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So even in the midst of reading, the more you read, the more stress you become. Then they call it too much craving, too much desire.
So Bante, if you're talking about cravings, if you cling to rights and rituals, also is a type of craving, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's the one of the factors.
So if Bante, in that case, what sort of actually rituals and rights then we consider it wholesome?
Okay, so clinging on rites and rituals is like in general, because a person have certain greed or certain wanting to certain habits and lifestyles. So that is a kind of rites and ritual. It could be a religious rites and ritual. It could be non-religious rites and rituals. Like how you squeeze your toothpaste, the front or the back, and how you brush your teeth. You start the front first or the back first. So it's a kind of ritual. Yeah. So there is certain craving to do certain things. If somebody else squeeze the toothpaste wrongly, your toothpaste wrongly, you get upset. Yeah. So that is a kind of clinging to certain habits and rituals. Yeah.
But let's say if it's on religious rituals, like
Yeah. So it's can be the pronunciation, style of chanting, the language, how you prostrate. So all this kind of stuff. Yeah.
this is wholesome, right? I understand. But I mean, if like some devotees would want to do certain things like going to a temple, drawing lots, and all.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So a lot of these are spiritism and folk religion. There's a bit of syncretism or mixture of those stuff inside. Um, again, very rare case, there might people who do it out of good intention.
So
Rare case. So if let's say some people, they are really very desperate, the state of mind is very desperate. You can't talk Dharma to them. They're in existential crisis. Their mind is like in depression or very sad or suicidal even or very frustrated. Then they might just need something to give them some mental support, emotional support. So if that divination lord can relieve their mind, then by all means. Yeah? So in a way, it's a kind of skillful means, but to a small group of people. But most people I observe is they just want more greed, more things for themselves. Yeah.
yeah, not the type that you ask for 4D, you want to win.
Yeah. So that
4,
is excessive, really. Yeah.
Yeah, understand.
Mm.
That is, I know that would be craving the thought of rights and riches to
Yeah.
pay for this. Is really unwholesome.
Yeah. So similarly, we talk about the more standard, let's say the Buddhist practice, even like prostration. We prostrate to the Buddha. If let's say somebody prostrate out of wrong intention, they prostrate, they bow down and ask for 40 numbers. Yeah, so that would be a wrong kind of ritual. So it's
So far,
it's the thought, yeah, intention.
do you notice anybody do that in Palila in town, right?
I won't know, yeah, I won't know.
Not in Buddhist temple, I suppose. Probably in other temples with those.
Buddhist temple, there might be a lot because there are lots of these Gnostic Buddhists, nominal Buddhists or free thinkers. Yeah,
Thank you,
those,
Bante.
yeah, those doing ancestral worship. Yeah.
This
Okay.
ancestral worshipping thing, it is quite hard to, if you are not in the practice all the while. I think it's something that you wouldn't want to do,
Mm.
Yeah, because you don't actually understand the significance or the value in doing it.
Yeah, so that's why the right understanding and right thought is very important. Probably somebody who really does have the knowledge of this ancestor worship, the history, the context, then when they perform it, then they'll have the right thought.
But like Bante, you said that every time after we do a wholesome deed, we can just delegate merits to them. It's good enough, right?
Yeah, that's the orthodox Buddhist practice, to dedicate merits.
Thank you, Bante.
Okay, no problem. Anyone else? Yes, Cindy?
And Bante, can I check with you? I would like to actually start off with a sutra for beginners. Would you be able to recommend me a book of sutra that I can start with? The first of that means the first initial book, the first book.
Okay, if you want to talk about suttas or sutras, they are not arranged according to a topic.
Okay.
So it's like all over the place. So normally nowadays in the modern age, the good thing we have internet or websites, certain websites, sutta websites that can have you the option to choose which topic you're interested to know more about. So one of my first exploration in the suttas using the website is using this accesstoinsight.org by Ajahn Thanisaro.
Sorry,
I'll,
which WhatsApp?
I'll type in the chat so that you can take a look.
Okay.
So some other people might prefer Sutta Central because there are more authors, maybe more suttas.
Okay. And
Okay.
Bante, I think
Yeah.
you have
accidentally I think remove my name, or you did not include my name, because I cannot get any more notification from you.
For which one?
For that means every day your session, the meditation session,
Oh, you're inside. You're in the Facebook groups.
but I did not receive any notification from you
It's in the
for yesterday and today.
group messenger chat. Oh, for the
I think Monday.
Monday one, you
Yeah,
have to
Monday.
accept the invitation to be in the Google Groups chat.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
if
But
if not,
today,
we'll take it standard as there will be lesson. So the only time there will be no lesson for those who are not in the group chat, then I'll email to y'all, email to the participants. Yeah.
sure, thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay. Anyone else? Okay. If there's no questions, we go for a 5-minute break. Can do your stretching, go to the washroom, and we'll see you in 5 minutes time for the guided meditation. Okay, let's see who's back. And while waiting for the rest to return, we can chit chat a bit. So for Cindy, you have the link of the Googles, right?
Yes, Bante.
Okay, all
I
right.
now roughly I know how to use because I saw there's a check here that
Okay.
you indicate. Yeah, I'm so new
Okay.
to Facebook,
Okay,
Bante.
okay.
I'm so
All
sorry.
right, all right, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Can, no problem.
Thank you, Bante. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Bante, it's a golden opportunity to be able to learn from you. So that's
Okay.
why whenever I don't receive any message, that's why I'll actually check with Susan whether today got meditation or not. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a rare opportunity, Bante, in this life.
Okay.
But she did mention, Cindy did
To meet.
mention that she don't have the Google account.
Mm.
So yeah, in order that I realized that because after when you send out the message, I say it seems like she don't have. So I sent to her because I realized that she don't have a Google account yet.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, so later on I'll get from you your maybe your email or something. Yeah?
Okay, thank you, Bante. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you,
all right.
Sister Susan.
Don't thanks me. Bante said, good Dharma, all must share, Bante. If not, I'll be
Okay.
the selfish one.
All right. I presume everyone is back, so we can start the session. Yeah, we can maybe mute the mic. Find a comfortable sitting position. Make sure your back is upright and the rest of the body relaxed. And since today's theme is on dependent origination, hopefully I can try to introduce some terms in the routine. Okay, so we start off with this visualization exercise on the impurities of the body. I learn how to detach the body. So we start off with imagining your hairs. Yeah? So that is using the mind sense door. Mind sense door, because your eyes are closed. So whatever image appears is your imagination. So whatever image that appear, if we do nothing about it, then either pleasant or unpleasant feelings will arise. Pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral feelings will arise. So things like, oh, my hair is so nice, so beautiful, then this is pleasant feeling arise. And if we don't do anything, then the mind will tend to incline towards greed. And the mind will say, I like my hair. So you want to think of how to make the hair more beautiful. So that is greed. And if you find your hair unpleasant, the hair is so messy, or you don't like this fashion, then if you have aversion, aversion arise, craving, aversion arise, then you want to do something to change that hairstyle. So mainly this greed and hatred. So this is the normal way of how things work, the forward order. So the reverse order, what we are doing is when we go against the stream, is that we wish the hairs well and happy, regardless of how the image look like. First, we make peace in that image, wish it well and happy. Thoughts of non-aversion. So every time a new patch of hair arises, that means new contact, and then there will be new feeling. And again, because of new image, then you must reapply the new thought, wish it well and happy. If not, the mind will start to daydream. Huh? A new patch of hair, well and happy. New patch of hair, well and happy. So the more you generate thoughts of this loving kindness to the hairs, and if that craving, aversion start to reduce, then you can observe whether the mind starts to calm down. Is it more stress or less stress? More suffering or less suffering? And if your mind is relatively calm, then we can think of the impermanent nature of the hairs. So that's the right thought of non-greed and non-delusion. So we can think of the hairs growing and falling, many cycles. So we keep looping this image, hairs growing, hairs falling. And at the meantime, while we keep looping the image, we can observe the arising and passing of the 5 aggregates. So in this looping of the image, the hairs growing and falling, these feelings, what kind of feelings do you have when the hair is new, when it's young, when it sort of grow old and fall off, what kind of feeling you have again? So is this feeling permanent or impermanent? So that's for you to investigate. So only the looping of the images is using imagination. The observing of the 5 aggregates is your real-time evidence. And when we think of these hairs growing and falling, there's also perception involved. All the names and labels, all the memories, past images of how your hair is supposed to look like. If let's say you sort of record down your hair and play them side by side real time to your actual hair, it may not be the same. It may look like someone else's hair. So is perception truly self? Do you have photographic memory? can you tell that image to be clear and sharp, or want it to stay there forever? Is it stressful when you ask it to stay there forever? So that is craving already. And next we have mental formation. So mental formation is right up the dependent origination chain, but part of the fourth aggregate. Every time we generate a new thought, that is mental formation. And eventually the consciousness, which is our awareness, our attention, so mental formations condition consciousness. So when we pay attention to something, what causes this mind to pay attention to this image at this second? And in between two images, between hair growing and hair falling, does that attention still stay at the image? Or does it run around? No, if I'm talking, probably your attention is to my voice. So that formation of that thought, formation of that attention, the awareness. So mental formation conditions consciousness. How does the attention jump from hearing to visualizing? And we observe the impermanent nature of these five aggregates. You can just pick one if you can't multitask. Once you let go of one, you let go of five. It's a package. And then we can ask ourselves, are these hairs truly self? Or is the sense of self increasing or decreasing when we think of impermanence? And is that sense of self even real in the first place? Is it permanent? Is it true? Is it the true self? Anything that is impermanent and causes stress is not self. So that's the basic guideline. So the more you detach, it's more like the more you filter the mind, you get it purer and purer. Okay, and now we are moving on to the four sublime states, or at least loving kindness first. So we are now feeling the sensations of the body. No need to visualize now. So we are feeling the four element sensations: earth, fire, wind, water elements. Earth represents any hard or soft sensations. Fire is hot and cold. Wind is any kind of movement. And water, moist or dry. So there is no need to deliberately create those experiences. We let those sensations appear naturally by themselves. And whenever they appear, we just wish them well and happy. So we make peace with them. And for this particular phase, the thoughts of non-aversion, because there's no impermanence, then you observe is the sense of self re-solidifying. So this is the samatha phase. A new sensation appear, wish it well and happy. New sensation appear, wish it well and happy. And similarly, if the mind is relatively calm, then we take note of this baseline emotion. And now we are going to cultivate boundless loving kindness. We wish all beings in all directions well and happy. No need to push your attention. We let the mind extend naturally by itself, all directions. And no need to visualize. So for this feeling or sensations, we are using the body sense law, body sense contact, nervous system. And we are using the non-discriminative approach. We treat all beings as the sensations and the five aggregates. Because when we visualize any particular being, and there will be past memories of that person or persons, and there will be emotion, reaction and clinging attached. Okay, so we use non-visualization. Whatever sensation we feel, we treat all beings, we wish all beings well and happy. New sensation arise, we wish all beings well and happy. New sensation arise, we wish all beings well and happy. So it doesn't matter these sensations are near or far inside the body, or they seem to be outside the body. New sensation means new contact, new feeling, and new condition for craving. So a new sensation arise, we accompany with thoughts of impermanence. New sensation arise, we wish all beings well and happy. So no matter what happens, keep wishing all beings well and happy. And the more you repeat, if all the conditions come into place, all the Eightfold Path factors are there, your right thought, right effort, right everything, and one may experience this right concentration, which is the first level of concentration, denoted by the increment of peace, joy, and happiness compared to the baseline emotion. And similarly, regardless of what you experience, continue to wish all beings well and happy. Keep turning the Dharma wheel. Do not idle. So if we have not detached, if we have not reached a liberated mind, there's a high chance of form becoming, clinging to this emotion. It's a pleasant emotion. We call this form becoming. But if, let's say, a person start to daydream, start to fantasize, start to worry, we call this clinging to sensual becoming. Your sense pleasure is more interesting than the meditation. But if you're sort of with the concentration, with the state of peace, we call this form becoming. Okay, next we add some insight. How to detach from this form becoming. We need to think of impermanence. Keep reflecting on impermanence. So all the sensations, they appear, they arise, and they pass away. So every moment, observe arising and passing. You can also sub-vocalize any word or term that is related with impermanence. So usually if there is a detachment, then there should be joy. Is an indication of cessation. Some cessation of craving. And with that cessation, there should be more stillness. And regardless of what you experience, keep on turning the Dharma wheel, keep reflecting on impermanence. Okay, and if, let's say, the joy and happiness start to dissipate or disappear, the combination of this loving kindness and impermanence may lead one to the fourth level of concentration. So even though there's a form because of in vipassana, because of insight, there's two kinds of equanimity. The jhanic equanimity and also this vipassana kind of equanimity. So the vipassana equanimity will prevent one from fully clinging to the jhanic equanimity. So of course we are not pushing or rejecting any forms of emotion. Keep tracking on the middle path. Keep reflecting on impermanence. And with the vipassana, you can always challenge yourself. No? How far can you detach? How far can you cease this craving? So this is your personal quest. It's like a never-ending quest. Okay, and now we are going to sort of power down, come back to the sensual plane. So we start to feel the entire body again. And even when entering the sensual sphere mode, can we still maintain a detached mind, still always mindful of impermanence? So now you can feel your fingers and toes. Yeah, are the elements still there? The aggregates, can you detect them? Okay, so this is considered restricted form of vipassana. Or earlier on we expand the mind to all directions, so that's also expanded kind of vipassana. And when we think of our body, that's the restricted form of vipassana. So now we are introducing the open awareness, open awareness concept. So we are now not going to control the mind. We are not going to restrict it. We are not going to direct it anywhere. We let the mind freestyle. Let it go wherever you want to go without you controlling. So the whole idea is no controlling, but in order to have mindfulness, you need to observe how this attention arise and pass away. So your job is just to be a surveillance tracker, no controlling. So in this way, we learn to see things as they are. See this mind and matter, how they operate as naturally as possible, without any man-made interference. So every moment you need to know, where is my attention now? How is this attention rising and passing? So this attention has all the 5 aggregates. So to know where your attention is, we use the form aggregate to detect your location of your attention. So the 4 elements of the form, we call this the form aggregate, is made of the 4 elements: earth, fire, wind, water elements. So whatever sensation there may be, then that is the form element. And together with that form element, there is also feeling. You might find certain element comfortable, some of them are discomfortable, uncomfortable, some of them are painful, some of them are pleasant, some are neutral. And together there is this thing called perception. You're able to perceive the sensations, able to give a name, give a label. And we talk about mental formation, why your attention jump here, why your attention jump there. So that is mental formation. And eventually the 5th aggregate is consciousness. And this consciousness, we can be aware of 6 things, 6 avenues: your eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind. So these are the 6 sense doors. And you can be aware of any of those sense doors depending on how this volition, this mental formation, want to push it, want to direct it. And this sense doors, this sense consciousness, appear dependent on external factors, dependent on your sense organ, the sense object, then the sense consciousness will arise. Okay, and the rest of the day or the rest of the week, if possible, we can always be mindful of impermanence to prevent clinging or to reduce clinging. And with that, we can gently open our eyes, formally end the session, but informally still can generate right thought. Okay, any problems or issues?
Actually,
Everyone okay?
Bhante,
Yeah.
when we are trying to concentrate in meditation with our eyes closed, what do we do with our eyes? Because when I think of concentration, I tend to try to focus on one point. Then I feel a bit dizzy, feel
Okay.
like not so good. Yeah.
Yeah, try not to force. Yeah, try not to squint or look. So that's why we use non-visual meditation.
But then, so where are you supposed to look?
Okay, just relax. Okay, so this one sometimes a bit got to do with a few factors. One is if the craving level is still high, then the tension level will sort of increase to the eye or the head level. So that might contribute to the tension in the eyes. So that's one possibility. Another possibility is our lifestyle. If we stare in a screen the whole day, there's some muscle memory involved. So the eyes tend to like to squint with or without us knowing it. So it's a bit of muscle memory. So take some time to relax or deliberately tell the eyes to relax.
Okay, thanks, Bhante.
Okay, no problem. Anyone else? Okay, if not, then we can conclude, have the closing chant. Okay, Anumodana, dedicating merits. Akasatha ca Bhumata Devanaga Mahitika Punyang tang anumoditva Chirang rakantu loka sasanang Etavata ca amhehi Sampadang punya sampadang Sabe deva sabe puta sabe sata anumodantu Sabha sampati siddhya. Dedication of merits to the departed. Idang me nyatinang hotu sukhita hontu nyatayo. Idang me nyatinang hotu sukhita hontu nyatayo. Idang me nyatinang hotu sukhita hontu nyatayo. And aspiration. Imina punya kamena mame bala samagamo. Satang samagamo hotu yavani banapatiya. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And we end with 3 bows to the Buddha. First bow. Second bow. And third bow. Okay, so that's all. Any announcements from Terence? No. If not, then good night and see you all with a new topic.
Thank you, Bhante.
Good night. Thank you, Bhante.
Good
Thank you,
night.
everyone.
Yep.
Everyone. Good night.
All right.
Good night,
Good night.
everyone.